Hi all, welcome to another video from VHS Studios. In this video we are going to talk about mount adapters or converters. We will go to the main video after the intro. We often get questions from our viewers asking how an adapter is going to affect a camera system. So first of all, let us see what is a mount adapter. Please be noted that we are not going to discuss about teleconverters or speed boosters, but rather we are looking only into the mount adapters. Mount adapters are a piece of equipment like this which goes in between the camera body and the lens. You can see in this combo, the camera body is an R5 and the lens is a Tamron 35mm 1.8, and in between there is an adapter from Canon which converts EF mount to RF mount. So this is what is called an adapted camera system. Mainly a mount adapter serves three purposes. First one is to compensate for the reduction in the flange distance. You can find a marking over here which denotes where exactly the sensor sits inside the body. And here you can see the mount of this camera. So the flange distance of a camera is the distance between the sensor and the mount. In the DSLR cameras, since it had a mirror system as well as a optical prism inside, the flange distance used to be longer than the mirrorless system. Since there is no mirrors or optical prism inside a mirrorless camera, the makers can reduce the flange distance. So when we adapt an old DSLR lens on a new mirrorless body, like in this case, the adapter sits in between the lens and the body and compensate for the reduction in the flange distance when compared to the old DSLR body. The distance between the sensor and the back end of the lens remained the same. The second function of the adapter is to translate the mechanical and electrical connections between the new body and the old lens. The connections and the physical dimension of the old mount and the new mount could be different. So this acts as a translator in between. There are two types of adapters. One is the passive one and one is the active one. Passive one means that it is just a physical mount. There is no electrical connection in between. There is no communication between the camera body and that adapted lens. But in an active adapter, there are electrical connection between the body and the lens, and the communication do happen between the lens and the body. The third function of this adapter is to translate the communication between the body and the lens. Coming back to the main question that how an adapter is going to affect a camera system, people are mostly concerned about three things. One is the image quality, second one is the autofocus performance, and the third one is the stabilization. We should be concerned about two more things. The fourth one is the rigidity and the fifth one is the weather sealing. First of all, we will talk about image quality. Like we mentioned earlier, a mount adapter does not have an optical element in between, contrary to the teleconverter or the speed booster which has an optical element. Since there is no optical element in a mount adapter, there is no sacrifice on the image quality. When it comes to AF performance or the stabilization, we need to consider few scenarios. First scenario is that the camera body, adapter and the lens are from the same maker. For example, we are trying to adapt a Canon EF lens on a Canon RF body using the Canon EF to RF mount converter. Second scenario is that camera and the adapter are made by the same maker, but the lens could be from a different maker. For example, in this case, camera and adapter are made by Canon and the lens is made by Tamron. The third scenario is camera is made by one brand, but the adapter as well as the lens are made by another brand. An example for that scenario is Sony A7 camera, Sigma MC11 adapter and a Sigma 152-600 contemporary lens. In this case, adapter and the lens are made by Sigma, but the camera body is made by Sony. And in the fourth scenario, camera, adapter and the lens are made by three different manufacturers. For example, when we are mounting a Tamron or Sigma lens using a Metabonds adapter on a Sony body. When it comes to the autofocus and stabilization, the scenario 1 would be having the burst performance next to the native one. That means when the body, adapter and the lens are made by the same maker, then it would be having close enough performance to the native mount itself. In option 2, 3 and 4, there are so many variables in between. Hence, the performance depend on many parameters, and it is always advisable to get as much of reviews and opinion from the people who are using those combinations. Test it by yourself before buying such a combo. When we talk about the rigidity, that means the overall mechanical strength or the physical strength of this combination. When we are adding an adapter, we are adding one more point of possible failure. That means mechanical or electrical failure. But it is not a showstopper. What you can do is that you can buy the best adapter available, and we have been using adapted system for so many years and we didn't had any real issues as such. When we are adding an adapter, we are adding one more point of failure to the system. If the adapter is not weather sealed, there could be chances that it will compromise the entire weather sealing of your system. For example, this adapter does not have a rubber sealing over here. So regardless of how weather sealed your lens or body is, this point of connection does not have any weather sealing. So when you are exposing your system to elements of nature, there could be chances that dust or moisture can get into the system. Especially when you are working on harsh environment, be careful about that. We'll be mostly interested in adapting a lens to a body. Since we are working mostly with the Canon system, we will comment on that perspective. For example, if you are having a bunch of EF lenses and you want to upgrade your body from an old DSLR to a new mirrorless system, obviously you can do that. In that scenario, you will get the same quality what you used to get from those lenses, and you may get some more additional features which has been offered by the new mirrorless camera bodies. The second scenario, you already have a mirrorless body and you are planning to buy a particular lens which is available both in RF and maybe EF in the second-hand market. In that scenario, you can still adapt that EF lens and you will get the best out of that EF lens, and like we mentioned, the additional benefit you will get from a mirrorless body. But if you are going to choose the RF option, you may be getting a slightly better performance because the RF lens are designed on a later stage which may have more advanced coating, more advanced AF system within that lens, and more advanced stabilization within that lens. That means you could get a better output with that RF body plus RF lens just because that RF lens could be a more advanced lens. And when you are trying to mount an EF lens to an RF body, please check the compatibility list. Normally most of the EF lenses are adapted seamlessly with the RF system, but if your lens is pretty old, like kind of a vintage kind of lens, it is always better to check the adaptivity list before buying so. If you are planning to adapt a third-party EF mount lens on an RF body, it is better to check the reviews and if possible try it out before buying so, because some of the lens may not work the same way that it used to work with the DSLR bodies. We couldn't cover all the possible scenarios in this short video. But if you think that this video was helpful for you by any means, consider liking, subscribing and sharing this video. Till we meet next time, thank you and goodbye.